And by popular demand, here we are back. Welcome to another live stream, members of the J area. My name is Jose Ramos Jr. And over the course of the next 60 minutes, we're going to be deciding who will be crowned the first ever J area award for Women's Wrestler in WWE of the Year. A lot of women had quite the year in 2024, but we're going to leave it up to the people. We're going to leave it up to you guys, the audience, the devoted members of the J area, to discuss who we think has had one, the most successful 2024, the most entertaining 2024, and really just the best 2024. Regardless of championships, regardless of wins, although those two are real big factors in determining who will be the first ever women's wrestler in the WWE for the J Area Awards. Well, obviously, you see the title, you see the thumbnail. We already have some ideas on who should be considered nominees. But over the course of the next 60 minutes, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to discuss who should be considered candidates, nominees for the award. And then in the second half, we're going to discuss and also open up the poll to the public, to you, the people, to voice your thoughts, to voice your opinions, and determine who the winner is. Like I said, over the next 60 minutes on this stream, we're going to be sharing our thoughts and our opinions and our memories on the year 2024 in regards to the women's division. Although it doesn't have to strictly be relegated to just the women's division, keep in mind we are going to crown the first winner of Women of the Year. A lot of people to consider. And I see in the chat we already have some action here. What's going on, Peter, Alex, Sylvia? Thank you for joining the live stream tonight, as you guys always do and consistently continue to do. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the participation. And I enjoy seeing, I would say friendly faces, but I don't see your guys' faces. I enjoy seeing my friends here out in the chat. So we take time here. We take time to recollect. Remember the year that was 2024. We had a great discussion about the feud of the year on Sunday night's live stream. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check out the replay where we discuss our favorite feuds, some that were underrated, some that we thought were just the best ones of the year. And obviously we held it open to the public. And if you haven't seen that live stream, please go ahead and do yourself a favor and do so. That way you're caught up to date with our conversation and the discourse that is the J Area Awards. Obviously, yesterday we had the J Area podcast. If you haven't seen that, please go out and do so as well in order to, again, keep up to date with our conversation here. A lot to discuss, specifically that in the world of the WWE. We do talk about AEW, we do talk about TNA wrestling, but for the purpose of these awards, it'll be WWE centered. A lot of our conversations, a lot of our discourse are in regards to the WWE, which is why we're going to start here with the women's division. Who should be the women's wrestler of the year? I have my, core four that I think should be in consideration. The women's division is as hot as it has been in quite some time. Obviously, if you've seen the evolution of the division, when you go all the way back to, for example, the 80s, when you had Wendy Richter, the Fabulous Moolah, Velvet McIntyre, Leilani Kai, and then have that evolve into the early 90s where you had your Medusas, Bull Nakano, Bertha Faye, just to name a few. Then the Attitude Era, which was a very controversial time there for the women's wrestlers because they were relegated to eye candy. But in the midst, you had women like Trish Stratus and Lita who could go out and perform, put on matches, unlike the ones that we've seen prior. Hidden gems like Victoria, Molly Holly, Gail Kim, again, just to name a few. Until in recent times, we've seen the evolution again when it came to NXT and the introduction of the Four Horsewomen, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky, Bayley. And now we have a wave of talent in which I don't think has ever been replicated, probably will never be replicated. Because from top to bottom, the women's division on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are a three-headed monster. Talents like Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, who is currently out, Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Bayley, Charlotte, who's out. And then you have up-and-coming talent like a Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Zarya, Roxanne Perez down in NXT. Top to bottom, the division is thriving. They've introduced 3 new championships: the North American title, the Intercontinental Championship, and the United States Championship. 3 mid-card titles to help consolidate the division and provide them even more TV time, even more opportunities to get over and succeed. Over the course of 2024, we saw a lot of great memories. I think the biggest feud, of course, was that of Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. It's a storyline that has taken center stage within the division and has ceased to end. Really a star-making performance here for someone like a Liv Morgan, who again came out of NXT, was one of the lower tier wrestlers coming out of that division because she was in the same class as like an Asuka, as like an Ember Moon, had time with Bayley. Nia Jax was there as well. And over time, consistently got better, consistently improved, to the point now where she's the current reigning and defending Women's World Champion, fighting all comers, defeating all comers. And of course, Rhea Ripley, there is no introduction needed. Someone like Rhea Ripley, you see it. She has the it factor. She has the aura. She has the personality. She has the moveset. Definitely in consideration there. Aside from them, we've seen some breakout stars in the women's division as well. Look no further than Tiffany Stratton, who's won the Money in the Bank contract, guaranteeing herself an opportunity at a championship of her choosing. Could be on TV. Could be at a premium live event. Hell, it could even be at a live event, maybe. Doubtful. But the rise of Tiffany Stratton certainly warrants her an opportunity to be considered for Women's Wrestler of the Year. And then even then, we're talking about the main roster. These awards are not just restricted to the main roster. We will include NXT, the developmental brand. I mean, look at the year that Roxanne Perez has had. Won the championship back at Stand and Deliver. Her second reign as the NXT Women's Champion. And again, fighting all comers. Had solid matches against the likes of a Lola Vice. Against the likes of like a Jada Parker. Thea Hale. Julia. Proving why I think she is the best women's wrestler in NXT. You look at the star-studded cast that NXT has at their disposal. We talked about all the people in their division already. And the NXT women's division, top to bottom, has the most depth, has the most excitement, has the most potential. It is up there as the best women's division in wrestling. And who's at the top of it? The prodigy, Roxanne Perez. Definitely someone that should have some consideration, should have a voice in this competition, in this award. We had solid matches all around. WrestleMania 40, where we saw Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. Bayley had defeated Io Sky, former partner, former teammate in Damage Control. Had a great matchup at WrestleMania 40. Not to mention the tag team division, when you had two of the strongest, two of the most impressive women in professional wrestling. You had Jade and Bianca Belair as the tag team champions for a fat minute there, a majority of the year. Have to mention them. Returning stars like Naomi, who made a grand return at the Royal Rumble and has not looked back. Has been consistently a reliable performer on Friday nights, where now she's actually one half of the tag champions since Jade Cargill is inactive. How about other stars that don't get as much recognition? People like Zelina Vega, who is so over with the crowd that they have devoted themselves as loyal fans to her, voicing their support on social media with the whole Push Zelina Vega trend. Legends like Natalya, although she may not have been present as much, she did have an influence on the first half of the year. We're just waiting for her to make her return, and it looks to be in the final matchup of the opening round in the Intercontinental Championship tournament. So many people in consideration. a wide array of talent. We're talking variety. We're talking diversity, top to bottom. Look at like a Nia Jax, who years ago, in her first run with the company, I think the argument could be made she was not a fan favorite. She certainly wasn't the best at her craft. But the year that she's had in 2024, quite impressive. Had a good showing. Had won the Queen of the Ring tournament. The second ever Queen of the Ring. Behind Zelina Vega. Defeated Bayley at SummerSlam for the women's title. Has been consistently one of the best heels in the division. Getting a reaction. I think she's entertaining. We had attended Monday Night Raw, where she had a matchup against Bianca Belair, and her interaction with the crowd demonstrates that she gets it. Many people might not give her credit, but she gets it. Nia Jax, the current reigning women's champion. So many people to consider. But we want to leave it up to you. We want to leave it up to the people to voice their opinions and shout out who they think could be considered to be the inaugural J Area Award in terms of Women's Wrestler of the Year. Like I said, for the duration of this stream, we'll be talking about who we think should be up there. For the first 25 minutes, we leave the discourse up to the public to see if they have anything to say, any names they want to throw into the hat. Maybe I didn't mention them, but this is your opportunity to name your favorites. And over the course of the next 25 minutes that would follow, we open up to the polls, giving you guys the opportunity, giving you the power to vote for who the winner is. I know I have my favorite, but that doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. Yours does. If you're new to the stream, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. We do live streams occasionally, talking about topics in professional wrestling, whether it's WWE, the occasional AEW conversation, past and present, new and old fans all alike are welcome. We do have the J Area podcast that airs every Monday afternoon, as well as the Friday 5 counts, where we discuss different topics and I share my top 5 depending on the category. But of course, today's stream we're doing Women's Wrestler of the Year. Look for other live streams throughout the remainder of the month where we will have other categories. For example, we're going to have Match of the Year, Male Wrestler of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, Return of the Year. We're going to have other live streams and other awards to hand out in the first ever annual J Area Awards. But we're back to the conversation in regards to Women's Wrestler of the Year. How crazy is it to think that there was a time where the women's wrestlers, their matches were considered to be the bathroom break. I can remember being a young fan watching the show on TV or being able to attend the live shows. And once the music of a female wrestlers popped up, a lot of members of the audience would rise up and they would head to the concession stands. They would refill their drinks, grab some more popcorn, go buy a t-shirt, or of course they'd use the restroom. And it wasn't for long, because a lot of times these matches would only last about 10 minutes. And that's including the entrances. That's including the walkouts. They didn't have a lot of time. They weren't seen as equals when it came to the males. And now we've come to a point where the women are consistently main eventing the shows. Whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or even WrestleMania. They are main eventing the shows. They have the drawing power. Some of them might be even bigger than their male counterparts. Look at Rhea Ripley, who is one of the biggest faces of the company. Recognizable, mainstream talent, crossover, to where the average Joe could see Rhea Ripley and either A, know who she is and recognize her, or B, they would see her and say, you know what, I want to learn a little bit more. I'd like to try my hand at this. It's that crossover appeal. Gone are the days that they are just seen as a pretty face. But now they can actually take part in some of the best matches of the year, and some of the best storylines in the business, have an influence, and even inspire future generations to come in and make a difference in professional wrestling. That's what happened with this generation. This generation, this crop of wrestlers saw talents like Trish Stratus, Lita, Mickie James, Victoria. So many people that I can't name off the top of my head right now, but those are the first ones that come to mind. They were influenced by those who blazed the trail, and now here they are today. Some of the best and the brightest that the company has to offer. We talk about a lot of the different nominees, a lot of the different possibilities in terms of who could be deemed the Women's Wrestler of the Year. Some of them champions, some of them not champions. But we talk about it because it doesn't matter if you have a title. It certainly helps. Don't get me wrong, it certainly helps. But it's not the end-all be-all when it comes to the recognition that comes with it. I'm very interested to see what people have to say, what they believe in, who are their favorites, who are not their favorites, and why. And also when we get to the men at a later date, we won't get to the male wrestler of the year quite yet. But same with that. Because I think everyone has their consensus favorite. Everyone has their personal favorite as well. So whether you want to vote objectively or from a personal bias, that's your prerogative. That's your option. Who am I to take away your vote? Because at the end of the day, I'm the one putting up the nominees, but I would love to hear from you guys and see who you would deem as appropriate members of the list of nominees for the award. And then ultimately we'll put them on a poll, open it up to the public, allow them to voice their opinions, and discuss who they believe should be deemed Women's Wrestler of 2024. Awesome comment here by Sylvia. She says, Rhea is the reason why I became a fan. I just started wrestling last WrestleMania. So you were caught right in the thick of it. You know, because at this point, Rhea's already a huge star. At this point, Rhea Ripley is a household name. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to Rhea Ripley. She's crossover. She's mainstream. She's box office. For the fans who have been watching the product, they immediately gravitate towards her. And for people who aren't familiar with the product, they still gravitate towards her. Just like you said, you started watching last WrestleMania, and I gotta tell you, I'm hoping. I don't even have to hope. I have all the faith in the world in Sylvia because she has really shown us how quick she is to adapt to the ever-evolving world of the WWE. She's ahead of the game. So I'm willing to bet that you have gone back and kind of seen what Rhea Ripley was like prior to WrestleMania 40. But even then, Rhea Ripley, I feel like, will be a popular choice here. Granted, Rhea Ripley was gone for some time due to her injuries. But because of her influence, because of her star power, because of just the success that she has seen in recent time, how can you leave her off the list? I feel like Rhea Ripley, for a lot of people, was the reason why fans are either coming back or new fans are coming in. For those in the chat, go ahead and share some of your favorite professional wrestlers in the women's division in concerning the award here tonight. As well as for Sylvia, what are some memories for you about Rhea Ripley? What were some of the standout moments this year for Rhea Ripley? Or a match that really stuck out for you? I know 2024, like I said, wasn't too kind to Rhea Ripley. She had a couple of injuries that she had dealt with. But she was not short of any memorable moment or some kind of, a crowd popping return or an appearance, because it seems like whenever her music hits, the crowd just stands up. She is a magnet for cheers. Whether she was a heel or babyface, Rhea Ripley is a star. Is a star, and it will only continue to grow. Her feud with Liv Morgan has taken center stage within the WWE. Again, we talk about how the feud itself might be running its course, but I feel like at this point in time, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley are in a better place than where they were before the feud started. Now, granted, Rhea Ripley, like I said, has always been a star. And some might say maybe she's felt a little stagnant when it came to the Liv Morgan stuff. But we want to cheer Rhea. She's great. In the ring, on the mic, she's a star. You cannot deny that. We're about to hit 30 minutes into the stream. I'm going to give a couple more minutes here for anyone who wants to join the live stream and join in and share their nominees or their thoughts on who should be considered Women's Wrestler of the Year before we pull up the poll here. Salvi says, when do you think Charlotte and Becky come back? Becky Lynch, I think, is going to come back within the next month. Whether it's the first Raw on Netflix, and I know I keep mentioning it, but they're really loading up that episode. Becky comes back by then, I think. Maybe the Rumble. I think one will return at the Rumble for sure. Charlotte apparently it's imminent. She's available to come back, I think, fairly soon, if not now. But I think Charlotte probably comes back at the Rumble. Becky comes back January 6th. That's my prediction. Sylvia says, you're putting me on the spot. Hey, but you have the benefit here. Because if you were to put me on the spot, you guys can see me. And I have to start thinking, and you'll see the wheels turning. Sylvia also likes Tiffany Stratton too. What a year for her. Because she had started the year on NXT and then made her debut at the Royal Rumble. And then made her debut on the main roster. Tiffy time got over like gangbusters, and then she became one of the top heels, won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and is now considered a potential babyface turn against Nia Jax. I personally never thought that Tiffany Stratton would be a babyface. Certainly not this soon. But we're right there. The reaction she's getting certainly is a pleasant surprise. She has the look. She has the moves. Big fan of Tiffany Stratton. Sylvia also says Bianca. Bianca, I think, had an under-the-radar type of year because she wasn't presented on the main event scene, which we were more accustomed to. She's a former women's champion, a former world champion. But this year she was really focused on the tag team scene and helping bring up Jade Cargill. So allowing her for an opportunity to kind of take a step back, kind of give the rub to Jade. So Bianca's a solid pick. You're doing great. I mean, for a new fan, I feel like you've really taken to it well. Knowledgeable. I mean, hey, you have some solid picks here for Women of the Year. And the other live stream that we had a couple weeks ago where you really showed off some of your knowledge for the past. And then your willingness to be open to learning more stuff. I mean, you love to see it. Doing a great job. Chelsea had an awesome year. Chelsea did have a great year. I mean, we talk about, obviously, the U.S. title win, first and foremost. Her dumpster match with Mia Yim, her awesome stuff with Piper Niven. Chelsea Green, a consistent favorite, always entertaining. I haven't really seen Charlotte. I think she's been out for a minute. I correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it might be hitting the 1 year mark pretty soon. Charlotte has been gone, but I tell you, once she comes back, they're going to push her to the moon. They always do. And she's not terrible, don't get me wrong. But it's one of those things where it's like, we know she's great. You don't have to force feed it. Charlotte, I think, will return at the Royal Rumble. That's my prediction. Great interactions here. Great participation here. Thank you, Sylvia, for voicing your opinion here and sharing some of your favorites. Salvi, you too. Thank you. Alex is in the chat, I see, as well. Pretty soon, we're going to be opening the poll here to the public, allowing them an opportunity. San Fran 5 with a Joe Hendry appearance. Again, we're asking for your guys' thoughts on who is the WWE's Women's Wrestler of the Year. Last chance here, folks, to have an opportunity to voice who you think should be in consideration. I am including the NXT division. Sanfran 5 says, does this include the NXT women's roster? 100%. 100%. I think there is someone there who I have the poll ready. But I do have someone there from NXT because I think the year that they have had, not only in terms of their progression, but just the match quality, has earned a distinction to be considered on here. I think 4 women really stand out. 3 for sure. There are 3 women for sure that have guaranteed a spot on the list of nominees. The 4th one for me was kind of a toss-up. And we'll discuss it obviously here in a moment when we share the poll. We're going to have about another minute before we unveil the nominees. Sanfran 5 says Roxanne Perez had a great year. Roxanne Perez is a star. At only, I believe, 23 years old. She really is a prodigy. She is as advertised. And I can't wait to see her mix it up with the main roster. Imagine matches with her and Liv Morgan. Her with larger opponents like a Rhea Ripley. Io Sky. The possibilities are truly endless here. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up the poll to the people. For WWE's Women's Wrestler of the Year, here are your 4 nominees. Go ahead and voice your guys' opinion. Make sure to vote in the chat here as well as share your reasonings on why you think your personal vote is the right answer. Many people to choose from. So many possible entries into the award. But we're going to start off here with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan, who had, I think, one of her best years, if not the best year of her career. She's had a women's world title reign that runs all the way back to Queen of the Ring. Defeating Becky Lynch. Had matches against Rhea Ripley. Had matches against Lyra Valkyria. I do think that Liv Morgan, again, as a character as well, has become so much more comfortable as a heel. Her presence on the mic, her little, love romance with Dominic Mysterio has garnered them a ton of heat. Liv Morgan has shown us why it's so important to have a deep investment on your talent. She wasn't a guy, or rather, she wasn't a girl who had made an immediate impact upon her arrival. But over time, her progression, her growth, and to see her where she's at right now, awesome stuff for Liv Morgan. I put Rhea Ripley here because Rhea Ripley entered the year as the women's champion. She's the top star in the division, and with her matches against Becky Lynch, Nia Jax at the Elimination Chamber, as well as her matches against Liv Morgan at SummerSlam, Bad Blood, she's mixed it up with the men and has been a perennial top star in the entire promotion, in the entire world of pro wrestling. How can you not include Rhea Ripley? I think she warrants it, but barely. She's the 4th one that I thought I might include her, I might not. But still, Rhea Ripley entered as the world champion, never lost the title. And 3rd, we have Nia Jax here. I decided to include Nia Jax because I feel like this run is way better than her first one with the company. Queen of the Ring, the reigning and defending WWE Women's Champion, has really improved in ring and as a personality, as a character. We want to boo her. We want her to lose. Her treatment of Tiffany Stratton is only going to get a bigger reaction for Tiffany's eventual return and betrayal of Nia Jax, I should say. Nia Jax is putting on a year, quite the year for herself. Number 4, I have Roxanne Perez as our final nominee for Women's Wrestler of the Year. Again, for her work in NXT, having solid matches against the likes of Lola Vice, Lyra Valkyria, Thea Hale, and then most recently, Julia. Roxanne Perez, demonstrating why she is the prodigy at only the young age of 23. She's only going to get better. What a year for Roxanne Perez, putting the division on her back as well, because people talk about how it's the best division in pro wrestling, with talents like Zarya, Stephanie, Julia, Jada Parker, Kaylani Jordan. I can keep going. Sol Ruka, so many talent. But at the top, Roxanne Perez. Gotta give her credit. Sylvia says, I like Rhea, but I have to give it to Liv Morgan. Solid. And I mean, we all love Rhea. But I don't think you can deny the success that Liv Morgan has had this year and the impact that she has had. A banner year for Miss Morgan. Muhammad says, happy Tuesday on a Tuesday night at Jose. I hope all is well for you and your life, and same with the rest of the Jose Ramos Jr. goers, including myself. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you for stopping by in the chat. I hope you included your vote for Women's Wrestler of the Year. Every vote counts, as we see an early lead here for Liv Morgan at 42%. Roxanne Perez not too far behind at 33%. Rhea Ripley, who was a barely made it in terms of the nominees, currently sits at 15%. And Nia Jax in fourth place, 8%. So I'm hoping you included your vote as well, Mohammed. I'm hoping those members of the J area who constantly and consistently participate in our live streams are voicing their support. They did participate quite much in the Feud of the Year live stream. I won't share who won that one. If you were there, you know. And if you weren't, hey, please check out the live stream just to catch up and make sure you're up to date with all the news regarding the J Area Awards. A quick recap here and reset. If you're new to the live stream, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. We're doing the Women's Wrestler of the Year for the J Area Awards, talking about pro wrestling and the year that is 2024. Salvia says, I got lucky and was able to meet Rhea Ripley and her husband Buddy Matthews at a movie theater in October and got to take a selfie with them. Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, they had a viral picture with a fan, I believe it was at a Walmart. And Rhea and Buddy seem like they're genuinely cool. You know, fans of the business. I mean, I hope they were cool with you. You're talking about how you met them at a movie theater. That's awesome. You know, to meet someone certainly of that stature. Because someone like Rhea Ripley, who is a major star, you know, I'm sure she gets encountered by fans consistently. And Buddy Matthews, what a tank. I mean, like, I can only imagine. The dude is a tank on TV. I can only imagine what he is in real life. Muhammad says, it is so wonderful to be. Yes, I'm also delighted to be here. And delete, and not this very unique show. Hey, I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for, being a part of the J area and voicing your thoughts and your opinions regarding pro wrestling, as well as taking part in our J area awards here, as we see Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez neck and neck, both at 40% apiece. A very tight race here when it comes to the award for Women's Wrestler of the Year. But again, voice your opinion. Make sure you have your vote in. Every vote counts, because we only have about 20 minutes before we close the votes. 15 votes are in. Make sure you get them in before it's too late. Your vote could make a difference and maybe have that opportunity to put them over the top and win the award. Martin says, I missed the poll for a couple minutes. My vote goes for Roxanne Perez. If you weren't able to post your vote, it's still open. It's still available. You'd have to click on the poll itself. It is still open and available for those who want to vote. It's still available. Your vote goes for Roxanne Perez. Make sure you drop down that vote below and make sure to give her the nod and also your vote. Like I said, it's still neck and neck here in the chat. 40%. It seems like Roxanne Perez has now taken the lead. But yeah, make sure to place your vote in before it's too late. We'll have other live streams throughout the rest of the month of December. We're talking about Match of the Year, Male Wrestler of the Year, Moment of the Year, Return of the Year. There's still a few more categories to include when it comes to the J Area Awards, the first ever J Area Awards, which I wanted to open up to you guys and give you the opportunity to pick your favorites. It doesn't necessarily have to be the right answer. A lot of guys want to have that analytical approach, and they want to do it by the book. This is an award show by fans for fans. So even if you feel like, hey, maybe Rhea Ripley shouldn't be Women's Wrestler of the Year because she missed out not an entire, but a good chunk of the year, it's still up to you. It's still up to you. Me personally, I placed my vote. I'll tell you right now, I think it's Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez and Liv Morgan for me are 1 and 2. I think Roxanne Perez had the best in terms of in-ring work and character work. I think she warrants the distinction to be named WWE's Women's Wrestler of the Year. But my vote doesn't matter at this point. We're looking at 19 votes for people who are looking to voice their thoughts and opinions on the state of the division, Muhammad says Liv Morgan and Dakota Kai. Big fan of Dakota Kai. The only thing that really is a shame with Dakota is the fact that she gets injured. Now, she's having a good run here. She's in the semis when it comes to the Intercontinental Championship tournament. But I would love to see her on a future list when it comes to Women's Wrestler of the Year. Still scratching the surface when it comes to Dakota Kai, but Liv Morgan is a solid choice here. Lucha is live says, Martin, I was able to vote. Maybe you had already casted your vote. That is a possibility. Maybe by accident you had voted for someone. I want to make sure and see on my phone. Maybe you can change that vote if you wanted to. No, so yeah, it says I had casted my vote and now it won't allow me to change it. So maybe by accident you had accidentally voted. That might be a possibility there. But yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on some of your favorites. It doesn't have to necessarily be listed in the nominee list, but it can be just who you thought overall had a solid year. Injuries can derail your momentum in WWE, whether you believe it or not. No, 100%. Absolutely. Injuries are never fun. Now, sometimes injuries can be considered a blessing in disguise. But I certainly do believe in the case of Dakota Kai, it has kind of been start and stop with her. She's been a member of Damage Control ever since its inception. And now that it's in like this state of flux where we see Kairi Sane is apparently now getting written off. Asuka has been out for some time. Io has really elevated herself back to the main event scene. And there's Dakota Kai, who was once the manager / voice of the group. Injuries can certainly derail your momentum. 100%. Dolph Ziggler and Christian and CM Punk and Randy Orton and Dakota Kai. Now, Dolph Ziggler, for sure, when he won the World Championship back in 2013, had a level of concussions that derailed his title reign and he never recovered from it. Christian, again, had moments of concussions, had to end his career for a bit there. CM Punk's injury when it came to the AEW World Championship, even his first matchup at the Royal Rumble in 2024. Randy Orton back in 2008 when he suffered the shoulder injury. Even in 2002 when he first started, he suffered another shoulder injury, the original one, that left him sidelined. Dakota Kai is the latest example of that with her ACL injuries that she's had in the past. Martin said, I probably did, Lucha, thanks, my luck. I was probably the one who voted for Nia. Now, how funny would that be? That the sole vote of Nia Jax was an accident. And you know what? I think Nia had a great year. The majority says otherwise, but that's why we leave it up to you. Muhammad also says Edge, Daniel Bryan, and Paige. I mean, those are three examples who just had to retire. Now, thankfully, all three were able to come back, and they're now in All Elite Wrestling, with the exception of Bryan, who is retired, supposedly. But injuries are a part of the game. Injuries are a part of the business, and you learn to adapt to them. It sucks getting injured. It sucks to be sidelined, but it's one thing to just be injured and give up. But these are individuals who are willing to fight back, scratch, claw, and get back to the top. I mean, look no further than someone like a Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley suffered an injury following WrestleMania 40, even broke her orbital bone in October. Muhammad says only if you have a personal trainer and personal assistant. I mean, well, also, when you're part of the business, I mean, you have these opportunities to have an outlet, to have resources around you. The Performance Center has been a godsend, I think, for this current crop of WWE talent, because it's giving them the opportunity to be exposed to the right equipment, to the right programs, to the right people, and has this awesome chance to, when they're rehabbing and they're getting back to full strength, get them back in ring shape. The Performance Center certainly, I think, is one of the best things the WWE has implemented within the last decade. Performance Center is off the charts. State of the art also, and it's a big help for NXT and helping the development of the stars that we see today and main eventing tomorrow. How's that for a plug for the Performance Center? 19 votes are in, everybody. Go ahead and keep going and voting, we have a lead here for Roxanne Perez, a very slim lead here. She has 47%, followed by Liv Morgan at 37% for second place, Rhea Ripley at 11%, and Nia Jax at 5%, which very well might have been just one vote. Other people that I was considering for the award itself, I thought Bayley had a strong consideration given her title reign and her win at WrestleMania 40, but following her loss at SummerSlam really derailed her momentum. She's been stuck in the mid card, and I'm a big fan of Bayley, but for that reason, I couldn't put her on there, and it was really because of Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's spot was in flux for like people like Io Sky and Bayley. Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, and Roxanne, I thought for sure those were locks. Had to be on the list. And ironically enough, all three of them are the current champions of their respective brands. Again, we have about 10 minutes left here in the period for which we're going to have this poll open. Make sure you have your votes in. Every vote counts. Martin should know that. He might have accidentally voted for Nia, but nonetheless, still a lead for Roxanne Perez, who I look at Roxanne Perez and I wonder when this title reign is going to end. I'm not saying I want it to end. I'm a big fan of Roxanne, but this title reign, when it eventually ends, are we going to see her move up to the main roster, or is she going to stick around maybe until Stand and Deliver? I think regardless, after Stand and Deliver in 2025, there's a strong chance she moves up. I just don't see how else she can stay. She's had solid matches against nearly everyone in the division, has already faced Julia. We're missing a Stephanie Vaquer match, a Zarya match, so they still could space it out and have Stand and Deliver maybe be her versus Stephanie. Have Stephanie Vaquer at Stand and Deliver, and then at St. Valentine's Day they can have her versus Zarya. There's still a lot of ways they can do it. Warren says, yeah, I think it was me. I can't see my vote. Oh, that's it, man. I'm sorry to hear that. But you did let us know that your vote would have went to Roxanne Perez, who is still in the lead here. Out of 19 votes, it seems that she is maybe one vote ahead of Liv Morgan, I would think. Mohammed says, speaking of Roxanne Perez, Punk has been a big supporter of hers. Well, I mean, Roxanne Perez is the unofficial child of CM Punk and AJ Lee. You can see a lot of similarities in her approach in promos and in ring work. You can see it. CM Punk, I think, has served as a great inspiration when it comes to her promos, and AJ Lee, that of her in-ring work. Her and Cora Jade are the unofficial sisters and the daughters of Punk and AJ Lee. Big fans of CM Punk, and it really speaks volumes to the legacy that Punk and AJ have had on this crop of this generation of talent. Roxanne Perez making her adoptive parents proud, I'm sure. Great shout out there by Muhammad. Like I said, guys, we still have about a little over 8 minutes here left in the stream. We're talking about the Women's Wrestler of the Year. I think each individual here has a legitimate case to lay claim to that title. Roxanne Perez in her second title reign as the NXT Women's Champion, Liv Morgan in her first title reign as the World Champion, but her second title reign overall. Obviously, Rhea Ripley, no explanation needed. A top star in the division, a top star in the company, and a top star in the business. Nia Jax, who I think has had a revelation of a year. Her first run with the WWE, not the best. But the second one, I think, has really served well for her legacy. Having a great character arc, having a great title reign. Well, I don't want to say great title reign. It's still in the early stages. I know she won it in August, but as a heel, it works for me. Queen of the Ring, champion. What's not to like about Nia Jax and her second run with the company? Certainly is an improvement off of the first one. Luis says that their vote is in. Awesome. Appreciate you taking place and taking part in this poll. We have 20 votes in. 50%, I repeat, 50% are saying it's Roxanne Perez. It's still relatively close between her and Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan is only maybe a few votes away, but it's looking like Roxanne Perez taking a good lead here with about 6 minutes in, or 6 minutes left in the voting time period. If you're new to the stream, a little reset here. If you're new to the stream, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. We talk professional wrestling. We do a live stream occasionally, and on tonight's live stream, we have the award for Women's Wrestler of the Year. Our nominees, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, and Roxanne Perez. Make sure you place your vote. Make sure you vote. Every vote counts to crown the first ever Women's Wrestler of the Year for the J Area Awards. I want to take the time right now to thank you guys for joining us. Our friends here in the J Area, we have Martin, Mohammed, Luis, Sylvie, Alex I saw earlier, Peter Parker I saw earlier, and our friends who aren't here right now but are usually here. Obviously, I'm talking about Tyler and Kevin, Mama Ramos, Sam Fran 5, a lot of the devoted members of the J Area who consistently talk about pro wrestling and come in, just like Kevin. See, Kevin, I knew you'd be here. Kevin here, he says he voted for Rhea Ripley, certainly a top star in the company. Now I'm here for Brody. Sanford says hi. That's awesome. That's awesome. Shout out to Brody Lee, by the way. Shout out to Brody Lee. But we are talking about pro wrestling. We are talking about the Women's Wrestler of the Year. 20 minutes in, about 5 minutes left in the voting poll. And it's, again, 50% Roxanne Perez. Just got done watching NXT as well. NXT, tonight's episode of NXT, I thought was solid. And of course, in the main event, we saw Trick Williams versus Eddie Thorpe defending his NXT championship in a matchup that I thought was kind of predictable. We know that the next matchup for Trick Williams will be against Obafemi at New Year's Evil, which should be a banger of a matchup, a big fight feel between Trick and Obafemi. Other news on the card as well, Axiom and Fraser successfully defend their titles against Gallus, especially after Axiom had a huge match against Obafemi to start the show. And then, of course, we have advancements in storylines that include Stephanie Vaquer, who will be facing Cora Jade next week on NXT, and a fatal four-way match to crown the next number one contenders for Fraxium's tag team titles. All that occurred on NXT. We look forward to next week's Christmas Eve edition of NXT, and all that during a special episode here because they were in a Lowell, Massachusetts, in a familiar arena. For those who remember, back in '97, it was the same arena that Shawn Michaels announced that he had lost his smile. And we saw that with Ethan Page. Ethan Page saying he might have lost his smile. But of course, Ethan Page, all ego, attacks Javon Evans. A vicious attack by Ethan Page as well. I mean, to place a chair across the neck of Javon Evans, the young OG, and crushes his I'm guessing his larynx and his pharynx, his whole esophagus, his throat. And then to see Javon Evans coughing up blood all over the mat. A vicious attack by Ethan Page. Surely something that Ava is going to have to do. Maybe a matchup at New Year's Evil, possibly. Mama Ramos stopping by. She says hello. Salvi says, I like how Ethan used the same line, I lost my smile, that Shawn Michaels said in the same building years ago. Great shout out there by Salvi. We're talking 97 wrestling. Also voted for my girl Rhea, even though she's losing. A tough year for Rhea Ripley, but certainly a year that Rhea Ripley I think will look back on as a huge pendulum, because the wave of momentum, it comes and goes. And in 2023 she had a solid year. 2024 I thought a good year, maybe a slow year because she had to relinquish that title. But I think the year 2025 will be extra nice to our mommy, Rhea Ripley. 2025 I think is going to be a big year for her. I see her regaining the World Championship fairly soon. I think at the Raw debut on Netflix, January 6th, it's not official, but I'm willing to bet that the world title will be on the line between Liv Morgan and her arch nemesis, Rhea Ripley, where I think that is where we're going to see the title change. This Raw is looking like to be a mini episode of WrestleMania. I mean, Roman versus Solo Sikoa in Tribal Combat could be WrestleMania worthy. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins should have happened at last year's WrestleMania. I thought it was going to happen at next year's WrestleMania, but it's looking like it's going to take place on this episode of Monday Night Raw. And then on top of that, if you were to have Rhea versus Liv Morgan, that will blow off the roof and put an exclamation point on an already stacked show. Muhammad says Ethan Page is really thriving NXT. Agreed. Don't worry, Ethan will get his smile back. I think he's already gotten it at this point. He talks about how, you know what, it's not about me losing my smile, it's about taking yours. And the vicious attack on Javon Evans, I think, is only the beginning of this resurgence of all ego. We're going to see a much more vicious side of Ethan Page. He came in to NXT following his stint in AEW and Ring of Honor, and he was very egotistical. He was very narcissistic. But I think now we're going to strip away that, the top layer of Ethan Page, and we're going to dive deeper into a more vicious side of him. I'm hoping to see this vicious side turn into a great heel run for Ethan Page and possibly a debut on the main roster. And with rumors of his former partner of Alexander joining WWE NXT, it's not official, but I think it's a possibility. I would love to see that happen. We just crossed into the 25-minute mark here, folks, so if you haven't gotten your votes in, we're about to close the poll here, and it looks like our official, the winner of the WWE Women's Wrestler of the Year, the first ever J Area Award for Women's Wrestler of the Year. 50% of the vote goes to Roxanne Perez, 34% goes to our world champion Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley with 10%, and Nia Jax with a lowly 5% of the votes. Congratulations to Roxanne Perez, NXT Women's Champion, our Women's Wrestler of 2024. Kevin says, yo, Jose, I watched MJF's entrance at the Wembley Stadium. Not gonna lie, AEW cooked with that entrance. The right promotion and angles. Awesome. An awesome show for All In. I mean, the way AEW is going, it's kind of up and down. They're kind of struggling here, But if in terms of an alternative, that's what it should be. I like AEW because it offers something different. I'm rooting for AEW because they're the competition to WWE, and I don't want WWE to always be, the only spot for the big show. You want to give other people an opportunity. Kevin says MJF needs to come over to the big leagues, WWE. I thought he was in 2024/2025, but apparently he signed an extension with AEW. I think eventually we will see him there, just because I feel like all pro wrestlers, they want to go to WWE eventually. I mean, it's WrestleMania. It's the big stage. You want to be with the big promotion. Now, he doesn't have to go there right now, but I think over time, it's going to set in, and he's going to eventually join them. Muhammad says, interesting fact, both Punk and Ethan Page left AEW and crossing paths again in NXT. A very brief crossover. There was a time where we saw in AEW, when we saw in NXT, Cody Rhodes and Ethan Page and I was going to call him Brian Pillman Jr., but obviously he's Lexus Cage now, and Shawn Spears all had a backstage interaction on NXT. I thought that was awesome. Did you see that Zero showed up on Raw? Do you think that's for Penta Zero Miedo? When I watched it, I immediately was like, okay, that's interesting. I'm very big into vignettes, and I'm very big into, these surprise debuts. And I didn't pick up on it, honestly. I thought about it, and I was like, I wonder who it is. And then seeing the internet kind of pick up and say it was Pentagon. Well, it makes sense. Zero Fear. Pentagon Jr. I would love to see it. I hope it's him. But I'm not going to lie to you. At first, he crossed my mind, but I was like, maybe it's someone else. But I'm hoping it is Pentagon. And hopefully they don't stick Pentagon with like Delgado or LWO. Have him be his own thing. Like Andrade. Have him be his own thing. Because Pentagon, he's going to kill it, man. And then when Phoenix eventually comes over, the Lucha Brothers against tag teams like DIY, like the Motor City Machine Guns, like the Street Profits. Possibilities are endless. I would love to see them against Fraxium for sure. But I think by the time Phoenix comes over, maybe they're not going to be a thing anymore. Fraxium is what I'm talking about. Apparently Logan Paul and Conor McGregor will box each other. I love it. I haven't heard this. But I mean, Logan Paul versus Conor McGregor. Will it be a great fight? I don't know. But it certainly will be box office. The names alone, the name value, people would watch it. I would watch it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that AEW is copying WWE. According to Tony Khan, WWE should be focused on WWE and AEW should focus on AEW. And when you're taking ideas, taking it differently. So you're saying AEW is copying WWE. Here's the thing. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. That's how the saying goes. It's a competitive sport. It's a competitive business. So there's going to be times, of course, where one or the other are going to take certain things from their competitor. Look at WWE and ECW. ECW was hardcore wrestling. And then WWE started becoming more, open to the idea of hardcore wrestling, introducing the Hardcore Championship, having guys like Taz come over. Then they would poach the talent. According to Tony Khan, WWE should be focused on WWE and AEW should focus on AEW. I like that approach. I think, yeah, you want to have this barometer of like, okay, this is how they're doing. This is what we could do. But you shouldn't solely make your decisions based off of another company. It's like saying if there's two people and they're rivals, you don't want to worry about like, oh, I'm going to make every move or every choice that I have in relation to them. No. I don't care about them. I'm worried about me. How am I going to get better? But if you use it as a barometer, that's one thing. Penta versus Shinsuke would be great. Pentagon against anybody, dude. Pentagon is that guy. Whether it was in Lucha Underground, whether it was in AEW, he is that guy. Pentagon. And what I want to know is, WWE, of course, is very big into branding. You see a lot of times them change the names of pro wrestlers. Prince Devitt is Finn Balor. For example, Punishment Martinez, Damian Priest. They're going to change names. Will Pentagon be able to keep his name? Or are they going to rebrand him? Of course, the Motor City Machine Guns recently debuted, and they're still Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. So that'll be interesting to see. I think they are going to keep the Pentagon name. I don't know if they're going to call him Penta, El Cero Miedo, or if they're going to call him Pentagon Jr. I've always liked Pentagon Jr. I'm more partial to that. But I do see them taking the opportunity to just take the brand of Pentagon and place him onto their show. Him against Shinsuke would be fire, though. That is facts. They did let AJ Styles keep his name. So I'm hoping they let Pentagon keep his name. I mean, they let Shinsuke keep his name, Samoa Joe. But now thinking about it, those were guys that came under like Triple H in NXT. So maybe it's a Triple H thing. Maybe he will allow them to maintain his name. I don't know. I hope Pentagon does get to keep his name. What do you mean by... I mean, for Muhammad, I mean in terms of a measuring stick. You don't have to follow it by the letter of the law. Just because AEW does this, WWE doesn't have to do like, oh, they did that, we're going to do it. Rather, it's like AEW sees, okay, WWE's doing this, what can we do to either match it or succeed? They're using it as a guide, not necessarily like the playbook, but just as a comparison. Overall thoughts on Rey Fenix and AEW situation. Man, I don't get it. Rey Fenix has made it known he does not want to wrestle there. He wants out. Pentagon's already gone, and it's an unofficial news, breaking news that he's going to join WWE. We know it's going to happen. So Rey Fenix, his contract ends. But because he missed so much time due to injury, apparently Tony Khan is tacking on a year's worth of extra time on his contract, not allowing him to leave. Yet Rey Fenix does not want to be there. Tony Khan's not going to put him on TV for a year. You're setting a precedent here. Because if I'm a potential pro wrestler and I want to join AEW, I'm going to look at things like that. Let him out of his contract. He doesn't want to be there anymore. And if he doesn't want to be there anymore, incentivize him. Give him reason to show up on TV for the duration of the rest of his contract. If he doesn't want to be there, just release him. You're basically holding him hostage. Versus a guy like Ricky Starks, who is healthy. He's been on interviews. He appeared on GCW. And you're not going to use him? I don't get it. I don't get what he's doing with them. For Rey Fenix, just let him go. He doesn't want to be there anymore. Why even keep him? And then he's voicing his opinions on social media, which is his right. Freedom of speech. He can do that. But why? Let him go. And then you bring up the whole medical. Exactly, because he was saying how Rey Fenix was it was ignored by the medical staff. Nothing is looking good for Tony Khan when it comes to Rey Fenix. And the more you keep him, the more this stuff is going to pile up. So if he's still with AEW and Pentagon is with WWE, and let's say WWE and Pentagon thrive together, and Pentagon is putting on great matches, he's putting on highlight reels, he's demonstrating why WWE is more competent at booking, Phoenix is going to be online voicing his frustrations about Tony, voicing his frustrations about AEW. So why would you do that? Why would you shoot yourself in the foot? Let him go. There's no harm in that. Not everybody is going to stay with the company for the entirety of their career. Phoenix might as well take a book out of CM Punk and choke Jack Perry out and get fired. Now, of course, I'm saying that facetiously. I'm just saying that as a joke. But it might have to come to the point where Rey Fenix is going to have to force his own hand and force his way out of there. Sanford 5 says, a match in Pentagon versus the younger stars like Carmelo Hayes. Dude, it's just the possibilities are endless. Pentagon against Carmelo. I would love to see Pentagon against Cody. Revisit some AEW matchups there. Pentagon versus AJ Styles. Pentagon versus LA Knight. Both former members of Impact there. And then, like I said, NXT. Imagine him versus like a Javon Evans. Axiom or Nathan Fraser. Finn Balor against Pentagon. Like, dude, this man is going to have so much people to work with. I would love to see Pentagon against Andrade, Santos, Rey Mysterio. It's going to come to the point where I think Pentagon's going to be like Andrade. Not because they're both Hispanic, but where you could just throw him in a match on SmackDown or Raw and tell him, hey, you and Carmelo got 20 minutes. Show us what you got. And it'll be great television. It'll be fire. The question is, when does he come, though? When does he make his debut? The Rumble? Maybe, but that's another, still over a month away. They just started airing the vignettes this episode of Raw. Do they save it for Netflix? Maybe. Not the first episode. The first episode's too loaded. But it is a possibility. Anything is possible nowadays in pro wrestling. But if I had to guess, I'm thinking the Royal Rumble. It's still about a month away because it's February 1st. So it's a little over a month. Maybe the lead up to the Rumble. And where will he show up? Will it be on SmackDown? Will it be on Raw? I don't think it's going to be NXT. If I had to pick, I'm a SmackDown guy. Great question there by Mohammed about our thoughts on the Ray Phoenix situation there. Pentagon should be a great addition. Like I said, I think he's going to keep his name. I think we're going to keep the presentation. Hopefully it works out, and hopefully he has a great run with the WWE, because it's where everyone wants to be. You know, when people grow up watching pro wrestling and becoming fans, 9 times out of 10 they're watching the WWE. They know WrestleMania. They know the legends like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Rock. All of them made their names in the WWE. So I think it's only a matter of time that Ray Phoenix meets his brother there as well. But if I'm Tony Khan, what do you get out of keeping him there? Who do you think John Cena's last match will be against, and on what show? It's going to be on a premium live event. I can't see it being on SmackDown or Raw. It could be, but I think I would much rather have it on a premium live event. I'm stuck between 3 guys. I think it's a legit possibility that he has a last match against Randy, because I don't know if they're going to have that as a feud during the tour. But I think he should put over someone. Now, I know the last few years he's been putting over everybody. But I think what we do here is we do a bait and switch. From 2017 all the way to present day, John Cena keeps losing. He keeps putting over people. For this final run, have him beat people. Have him beat people. For old time's sake, Super Cena. And in his final match, put over someone. Give them the rub. And I think of 2 guys. Braun Breaker's 1. Him against Braun Breaker would be solid. Giving Braun Breaker a rub here and beating John Cena in his last match. But other than Braun Breaker, my personal choice, who I think it should be against, is Carmelo Hayes. I see a lot of similarities for the rise of Carmelo Hayes and an early John Cena. I think Braun Breaker at that point in December of next year, he won't necessarily need it. He's already a huge star, Breaker. But a guy like Carmelo, who is a star, but not on the level of Braun, I think could benefit from it. I think John Cena versus Carmelo Hayes should be the last match. Kind of like a shout out to Kurt Angle and John Cena for Cena's first match. Kurt Angle issued an open challenge. John Cena answered. For the final match, maybe John Cena comes out, issues an open challenge. For his final match, who wants to come out here and give it one last go? And Carmelo's the one that answers. And Carmelo wins. That's how I would do it. And I would put it like on a premium live event. But now speaking it, maybe it's a SmackDown, I don't know. John Cena was getting the Dolph Ziggler treatment, essentially. He was putting over everybody. But he was putting on great matches. You know, there was a time being where he was like having these underrated matches, especially during the United States Championship run back in 2015. But Cena, yeah, in terms of the Ziggler treatment, he was putting over anybody and everybody. I mean, most recently, Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel. We're going to have this stream on for just another couple minutes here. We're going to call it at about 15 after. Great stuff here on tonight's stream. We had the winner of the Women's Award, Wrestler of the Year. Talked about John Cena and Tony Khan and his situation with Ray Phoenix and Pentagon. Make sure to tune in for the next award. Not going to release that information yet. Obviously, keep an eye for the community post where we'll share the next award. Friday night, we're going to have the post-show reaction to Friday Night SmackDown. Obviously, Fridays are Friday 5 counts. Mondays are the J Area podcast. Keep an eye out as well as we upload clips from the J Area podcast. If you haven't seen the episode, I advise you to do so. But also, we have short clips coming out throughout the week about the different topics that were discussed on the episode. Obviously, I want to take the time to thank you guys joining us every time for these live streams, continuing to voice your support participating in the chat, participating in the polls. I want to thank you guys because you guys make it worthwhile. Coming out here, talking pro wrestling. It's a show for fans by a fan. And like I said, this is very much your guys' channel as much as it's mine. I'm just the moderator. Salvi says, are you going to be doing a tag team of the year? I am. We will be doing a tag team of the year at some point throughout this week. That one, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. It might be the next one. It might be. But we'll keep an eye out. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for the next award. Thank you guys for joining us on the live stream. Always so much appreciation for the devotion, for the support. Thank you for taking part in tonight's Women's Wrestler of the Year. Obviously, Feud of the Year on Sunday night. I'll let you guys know if we go live tomorrow. More likely. So keep on your notification bell. Keep an eye on the community tab. And of course, if you don't know, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for joining us on tonight's live stream. And for now, until then, keep being good people.